Want to buy a gun for somebody else or give somebody else a gun? Can you do it legally? Yeah, mostly. Kinda, sorta. This is Alan with Quarter Horse Arms, and I want to give you some thoughts about gifting and giving guns away. For starters, let me give you my disclaimer, which is the laws vary by state. And if you're concerned about that, please check with an attorney, check your state laws regarding what goes on. Okay, for starters, can you give somebody a gift as a gun? The answer is absolutely yes. So if you want to give one to, a relative, brother, sister, son, daughter, grandson, whoever, yes, you can do it. And there are some interesting codicils or restrictions. Frankly, if you're giving a new gun as a gift, one of the recommendations I saw online is, buy the gun for them, but have them go to the gun shop to pick it up. It eliminates any question about who owns the gun, plus it also means that the person getting the gun has had a background check. Do you need to do that? No, you do not. What's the big restriction? You can't transport the gun across state lines to sell it or give it to somebody else. That has to go through a gun dealer. So once you cross state lines, the rules change a little bit. The other thing to keep in mind is, and this is where it gets weird, and this is true for anything, is once you cross state lines, the rule of thumb is a gun dealer needs to be involved. Is somebody going to be standing at a state border and check to see if you have guns? No, they will not. Similarly, if you want to send a gun to somebody, that also needs to go through a gun dealer when it crosses state lines. Okay, so let's talk also about, long as we're on the subject, a straw purchase. So it's kind of like buying a gun for somebody else. In fact, it is buying a gun from or for somebody else. The problem with a straw purchase is you're typically, if you're doing that, you're buying a gun for somebody who legally can't own one. And, once that happens, I have 3 words for you. Felony. It, in fact, is a federal crime to buy, sell, or give a gun to somebody who cannot legally own one. And this is a gray area too, because, how do you regulate it? I don't know that there's an easy answer to that. Going through a gun dealer eliminates that part of the problem because of the background check most of the time. Okay, now let's do like private personal sales. As a gun dealer, I can't do it. I mean, is there a loophole for me to do it? Yeah, I could transfer the gun to me and then give it or sell it to somebody else. The ATF basically takes a very, very dim view of that. So, can you sell a gun to somebody else on your own? Yes. When you cross state lines, the same rules apply. You've got to go through a gun dealer. The question some of you might have, and I don't know what the answer is, quite frankly, is how many guns can you sell before you get considered to be a gun dealer? And, I kind of poked around a little bit online, and there really isn't much in there. except for the ATF having a fixation for 10 years in prison and $250,000 fine. So I'm assuming that, that seems to be their mantra. But there is no restriction as far as I can tell, and I already gave you my disclaimer. There's no restriction about you selling a gun to somebody else. All right, now let's talk about a couple of things that have to occur. You want to give a handgun to somebody, they either need to have a concealed carry permit or have a pistol purchase permit in order to get the gun from you. That's only part of it, because those laws also vary by state. So I can tell you flat out, in North Carolina, you're giving a handgun to somebody to stay legal. Excuse me. The person you're giving it or selling it to has to have a permit. Okay, so let's go to the next part where you want to ship a gun to somebody else because you're crossing state lines. Typically, a lot of the shippers now, the post office being one of them, is if they know it's a gun, handguns have to be shipped 2-day express mail through them or the equivalent through FedEx or UPS. And they have to go from gun dealer to gun dealer. You can't sell a gun to Billy Bob and then legally throw it in the mail and, A, hope it gets there, and B, think you're doing it actually legally, which at that point you're not. Okay, so let's go to the next topic near and dear to your heart. You sell a gun to somebody and you have no proof that you sold the gun or bought the gun. Now, what do I mean by proof? Well, let's say you buy a gun from Billy Bob, and Billy Bob and you are friends. And somewhere down the road, Billy Bob and you have a falling out. You're no longer friends. And Billy Bob reports to the police that the gun he sold you is in fact stolen. How do you prevent that from happening? Well, there's a couple of ways. And again, it does vary by state, but typically you can do something as simple as a bill of sale and, get a copy of their driver's license and write down, I bought this gun from Billy Bob on whatever date for however much money. And that's sort of a marginal protection. The other way to go is through a gun dealer. And I've done it, and I know that there are other people or other gun dealers have done this. And in fact, in some states, you have to go through a gun dealer. So if you're selling a gun to Billy Bob, you and Billy Bob have to go to a gun dealer. And you're going to go, hey, Alan, this is a pain in the ass. I don't want to have to go to a gun dealer. They're really far away. Well, I just looked at a study that showed 99% of the population in this country lives within about 10 miles of a gun dealer. Kind of says something about how many of us are floating around. Okay, so what does a gun dealer do for you besides charge you a transfer fee? So if you were to do that through me, one of you would be paying a $15 fee for my transfer fee. And frankly, I don't care who does it. But how does this work to your advantage? Well, going through the gun dealer, you bring me the gun that you're going to sell. I physically enter it into my acquisitions and dispositions logbook. So the gun comes from you. I have your vital information in the file. So in the A&D book, I've got the serial number of the gun, the manufacturer, the caliber, the date I took it in, and who I got it from. and your address. And then on the disposition side of it would be the guy you're selling it to. I enter the date that happened and all of their vital information. And there's a Form 4473 that's filled out. So what you've essentially done is create a solid paper trail for the person buying the gun. I wouldn't even call it, the dealer's not brokering it, the dealer is just making sure all of the checks and balances are in place, meaning if they don't have a concealed carry permit, I've got to do a background check. But at the very least, if down the road, that gun that I said a few minutes ago that you bought from Billy Bob, and he claims it was stolen, and you can go, when the local law enforcement comes to investigate, you can go, oh, hell no. In this case, you went to Quarter Horse Arms, and you gave him the gun, and I did the background check and paperwork, so when the law enforcement shows up, there is a solid paper trail. No one can question where the gun came from. And if Billy Bob is going to claim that you stole his gun, why would you have paperwork showing that it was acquired legally? I mean, are there shady people out there? Yeah, I'm sure there are. But the reality is, it's a protection for you. It's a protection for them. And there are, a lot of states, and frankly, I don't pay attention to who they are. But if you're buying a gun, even on a private sale, the gun dealer has to be involved, or a gun dealer has to be involved. And part of it, I'm sure, is down the road somewhere, they want to know where the gun came from and where it went. On a private sale, if the two of you showed up and did the paperwork, well, that doesn't necessarily mean the gun's 100% traceable. What if the gun you're buying was given as a gift or bought 2 other times on private sales? There's no paper trail there. But again, from a protect yourself and your purchase, this is the way to do it. And if you are in a state that requires a gun dealer being involved, you really don't have a choice. You don't want to be caught doing anything illegally. Okay, enough said about that. If you're not sure how many guns you can sell before you become a gun dealer, find out. Check with an attorney. You can call the ATF if you're that motivated. So, at any rate, if you have any questions or comments or ideas for future podcasts, you can call or text 919-808-6480. You can email to info@quarterhorsearms.com. The website is quarterhorsearms.com, and this is Alan with Quarter Horse Arms in Snow Camp, North Carolina. You guys be safe and have a great day.